Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 85 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, what is the word today?
Man, what's happening, man?
Man, what's happening, man?
That's right.
That's my favorite thing to hear in the whole world.
That's a double man.
Man at the beginning, man at the end. No, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. Glad you're feeling good. Looking thinner?
I'm trying to eat better, trying to shed some weight. I'm trying to catch up with you, man. You're making me look bad.
Nah, man.
You're working out and all that. Eating better.
Just eating better.
All right, Gibbs, we've got some new Patreon shout outs to give.
We do?
Yeah.
Patreon's growing. I like it.
How about that?
Thank you.
A lot of people are liking the Patreon episodes.
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
And we've had some good ones. We picked some good subjects and people seem to like them.
Yeah.
We had Christy.
Just Christy?
Just Christy.
Okay.
Aaron Keller jumped out at our highest level.
Thanks, Aaron.
Dynasty Chriselle Lockett.
Chriselle Lockett.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Dana Tracy.
Hey, Dana.
Stacy Taylor.
Thank you.
Lauren.
Just Lauren.
Just Lauren.
All right, that's cool.
Kelly Trainer.
Hey, Megan's sister.
Denise Callahan jumped out at her highest level.
I still think that's funny. Callahan break parts.
Callahan. I love that movie.
That is a great movie.
Man, if that movie's on, I would just sit and watch it. I've seen it so many times.
It makes you laugh.
What's the movie called, Gibbs?
I
just love it. We're talking about it, and I just
man,
get you out of the blue. Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy, yeah. I see him and Spade and
you can see everybody in it. I know.
Yeah, I sometimes get the name of that one mixed up with the one when he's the senator's brother.
Black Sheep.
Black Sheep. Yeah.
Yeah. That one's not as good.
No, but
Tommy
they're kind of just David Spade's in that one as well, and
David Spade's in every movie ever made.
Yeah, if a Saturday Night Live guy is doing a movie, David Spade's in it, and Rob Schneider's probably not that far behind him. Yeah, he's in either anything Spade does or anything that Adam Sandler does.
Yep. We had Terry Toganon.
Togging it on.
Heather Brabble.
I can scrabble but brabble.
Megan Valier jumped out at her highest level.
Like honor?
Honor and valor?
Yeah.
Valier. Or Valier.
Valier.
Yeah, I know you like
Dropped
that
my
one.
car off of the Valier.
Betty Winter.
Hey, Betty.
Tamara Myers-White jumped out at her highest level.
There's a name. Thank you, Tamara.
Kyle Gifford.
Thank you.
Amber Powell.
Hey, Amber, thank you.
Colette Marsh.
Awesome, Colette.
Megan Capps.
Like in Pop-Pop.
With 2 P's.
Yeah, so double Pop-Pop.
Tim Hayward.
Hey, Tim.
Jess Plant.
Is it Jess Plants? Like P-L-A-N-T?
Nope, Jess Plant. Like Robert Plant.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jess.
James Can.
When we know he does.
Gretchen Hereford jumped out at our highest level.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Lisa Sangalang.
Lisa, I hope you can really pull it off.
I hope she can sing.
I would hope so.
That's a cool name, though. I really like it.
If you're going to have a name like that, you better be able to belt it out.
Nicole Beretta. Gibby's favorite show growing up.
That's kind of a cool name.
Well,
Table for Beretta.
I say growing up, you were 30, but...
Wasn't that cool? Table for Beretta.
Shane McCartney.
Hey, Shane.
Kate Alexander jumped out at our highest level.
I like that name, too, Alexander. That's a good, solid name.
Strong.
Yeah.
I think you say that every time there's an Alexander. You really like that.
I do like it.
Donna Mertz also jumped out at our highest level.
Thanks, Donna.
Nicole Emmanuel. Meredith Burrell.
Burrell. What is that? Like Borelli.
What is that? Like
It's
your
like
Chef
Borelli.
Borelli. Dana Tapper.
Hey, Dana.
Katie Sidlasic jumped out at her highest level.
I hear like Sid Lastic.
No, said Lassick.
Lassick said it?
And I'm not even sure that's totally right.
So Lassick said this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jessica Robson.
Hey, thank you.
Timothy McCouch.
Awesome.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Chris Ryan.
Thanks, Chris.
Huge supporter of the show, longtime supporter, and we appreciate that.
We do.
We appreciate all the new support and the people that continue to support us month after month on Patreon. It's awesome. We also had some PayPal support.
Oh, love it.
Haley Bilka.
Hey, thanks, Haley.
And Lena Fogelstrom.
Well, thanks, Lena. Fogelstrom.
Yep. From across the pond.
When you say across the pond, that could be anything. Where is this?
I don't know exactly. Somewhere in the Scandinavian region, I believe.
So up north across the pond.
Maybe Norway, maybe Sweden.
Oh, well, that's across the pond.
Yeah.
Not the pond, but the pond.
It's across the pond.
Yeah.
All right. There is an episode out right now on True Crime All the Time on Sean Vincent Gillis.
Yeah. Episode what number?
Episode 98.
Dang, man.
I know it's hard to believe, isn't it?
I can't believe I've been sitting across you that long in this wooden chair. All right.
But, this is a case, Gibbs, that as we started looking into it, because we weren't that familiar with it.
No.
And when you get into it, this guy's as bad as they come.
Hey, the people out there making mine hunters, you might want to look into this one for
maybe next
for season 3.
Yeah. Or 2.
Well, two's on its way out, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Season 3, yeah.
But he should definitely be on there.
Fergie can play the role.
I'll play it. All right, Gibbs, you ready to get into this episode of Unsolved?
I am.
All right, we are talking about the Monster of Florence.
The Florence, as we say in Italy.
And I feel like it's going to have a Hannibal Lecter vibe to it.
It's a little bit of a Hannibal show.
I go back to what's the second one? What's the movie where he's in Florence, or he's over in Italy? I can't think of the name right now.
Does it start with Red?
No, it's not Red Dragon.
No.
Is it just Hannibal?
Maybe it's just Hannibal.
I can't remember. But anyway,
because the first one is
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs, so it's got to be Hannibal.
Anyway.
And you're asking me? Really?
I know. Why am I asking you? But I can't remember anyway. People will be screaming. Then I'll get a bunch of emails with what it really is.
So this is like, this is going out to the Florence of foodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're into food. Foodies. Not foodies.
How are you making that leap?
Florence foodies.
Einstein.
I was very smart. And I would just say to them to put down your eggplant parmigiano, put down your meatballs. This is not what you want to eat while we do this episode. Not going to be very appetizing.
It's going to be a rough one for Unsolved. Unsolved sometimes they're sad, but they oftentimes don't have the gory, gruesome factor that some of the T-Cats have.
It's got a little bit of gruesomeness to it.
Yeah, it's got a little bit. So we're in Florence, Italy. And, Florence, known for its picturesque rolling hills. We're talking about olive groves, fields of sunflowers, poppies. I mean, this is a beautiful place. Yeah, this is a destination place for a lot of people.
Very romantic.
But it's also a place where, the inhabitants are going to be scared of this person known as the Monster of Florence. So the Monster of Florence is the name given to the person responsible for the death of at least 14 people near Florence, Italy between 1974 and 1985. And this case has spanned over 40 years and it's still unsolved. This despite Italian authorities seeking out the help of expert investigators from all over the world. And I gave those dates 1974 to 1985. That is originally what was thought to be the span of time in which the Monster of Florence operated. But later on, they're going to tie something back even earlier. And then there's going to be things much later that we're going to talk about, Gibbs.
Absolutely.
That are possible tie-ins. Now, this is a two-parter. And so the later, after 85, we won't get to till part 2.
Yeah, we're diving to it then.
So there have been some trials in this Monster of Florence case. 2 men were convicted and sent to prison in error with the thought that they were the Monster of Florence. But the case it's a cold case. It's an unsolved case. So let's talk about the crimes and the suspect's MO. The victims were couples who were alone, parked in cars, like in a lover's lane areas or just in remote type areas.
Just like you used to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, still probably do, don't you?
Back in the day.
Kids are here, you and the missus just take a little drive.
Where is the closest lover's lane? Do they even have lover's lanes anymore?
I don't know, but you do have like this corner down here, that scary looking farmhouse on the corner, across the street's a barn. That's a scary place, but you could probably pull back in there. But
if it's a scary place, then why the hell would I take my wife there for some smooching?
who else is going to pull back there?
Makes no sense.
And then it gives you the thrill of like, could
I'm a
somebody
45-year-old man. Why do I need to sneak off?
Could Leatherface come out with a chainsaw? That's what it looks like. That house looks like Leatherface would live there.
I don't even know if there is lovers' lanes anymore.
There probably is so
But if
far.
there is, I certainly don't need to go there. I'm 45 years old.
You just say, hey, kids, go watch something on TV.
Yeah. I got plenty of room in the house.
Yeah. Me and your mom are going downstairs and work out in the gym.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these attacks would occur mostly on weekend nights and also when there was minimal moonlight. And the suspect would never make their attack in the same area back to back.
That's smart.
Yeah. Sure.
You know? Yeah. You don't go back and rob the same bank the next day.
Less chance of getting caught.
Yeah.
If you want to stay out of prison.
But if you do, I mean, and you pull it off, you got some balls, but I wouldn't go back to the same bank and rob it again.
But there are people that do.
Well, I know. And they actually get away with it,
Exactly.
which literally blows me away.
Now, the suspect would track victims and then wait for them to start making out, start macking, as we say back in the day.
Is that what you guys said back in the day?
Wasn't that the term back in the day? I mean, I know it wasn't for you because you were in the chess club. There was no macking going on in the chess club. But for
Did you see who's in the chess club?
kids like myself, there was some macking going on. Couples would start making out. They would be getting friendly. Their focus was on nothing but each other. Right, Gibbs? I mean,
They're in the moment.
Yeah. They don't have their head on a swivel. They're not looking out the window probably looking for somebody coming up on them.
No, they're enjoying the moment at hand.
This allowed the suspect to come up on the car unannounced. Like I said, minimal moonlight, so it's very dark outside. He would first shoot both the man and the woman with a gun and then would finish them off with a knife. Now, I'm saying he, Gibbs. We don't know for sure that this is a man, but it's most likely that it's a man. So I'm going to use the word he. Because first of all, I don't want to have to keep saying the Monster of Florence every single time.
MOF, man.
MOF, Moff. Yeah. I could just say Moff.
Moff.
But then, Gibbs, things would get very gruesome.
Very, man. Very.
He would cut out the woman's vaginas or he would remove a breast.
So, some of the killers we talk about always like to have a trophy item. And I think this guy's trophy item was the vaginas, the breasts, I think that's what he got a kick out of, an enjoyment to have those, I guess, back at home. I don't know how you preserve it. I don't know what the heck you do with them, but he took them.
Well, and unfortunately, we know from doing so many episodes of True Crime all the time that, these killers often use these souvenirs for sexual gratification later on. They use it to relive the moment that they committed the murder or they committed the mutilation or whatever it is that's getting them this sexual gratification.
Yes.
In a lot of cases, that's what it is.
I still remember the Chicago Rippers Club.
Yeah.
That was sickening, man. Yeah.
But what I found very interesting with this person, Gibbs, is that with the exception of one victim, he doesn't sexually assault any of the women. And even in that case, which we'll talk about, as we go along in the podcast, he used a foreign object that was already at the scene. And his attacks didn't come close together. For the most part, they were somewhere around 9 months to a year apart. But he went as long as 7 years, Gibbs, in between attacks. The gun that he used was a .22 caliber Beretta, and he used Winchester H bullets that were manufactured prior to 1968. Investigators knew the suspect used the same gun because of the marks on the shell casings. They could tell that the firing pin of the gun was defective. Famous Italian criminologist Francesco De Fazio would state that crimes such as those perpetrated by the Monster of Florence are unlike any found in the whole of the literature of criminology. In all the case studies on criminology, no case can be likened to the Monster of Florence. On August 21st, 1968, around midnight, a couple parked their car just outside of Florence in the small town of Lastra Asigna. They parked in a wooded area, and this was a couple that was having an affair on their married spouses. The woman's name was Barbara Lochi. She was 31 years old, and the man she was with was Antonia Lobianco. He was 29. And Barbara brought along her 6-year-old son, Natalino, who was sleeping at the time in the back seat. Someone came out of the bushes, shot and killed Barbara and Antonia, but left the child, Natalino, unharmed. Around 2 a.m., the 6-year-old rang the doorbell of a house he found about a mile up the road. The owner of the home said he looked out his window and saw this young barefoot boy all alone at his door at 2 a.m. He opened the door and the boy said, "Let me in. I'm tired and my father is homesick. Then you have to take me back home because my mommy and uncle are both dead in the car."
Well, he says uncle because in Italy and other places like that, a lot of families just kids would refer to other men and women, adult men and women in their parents' life as uncles and aunts, even though if they weren't blood related.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering why that would be.
Yeah. It's like,
at first, to be honest with you, I was thinking that his mother told him that this man was his uncle so that he wouldn't
tell. Yeah.
But
and it's like when I come here and your kids call me Uncle Gibby.
yeah, right. It's the same.
Yeah. Hey, Uncle Gibby. I'm like, hey, what's up? Nieces.
The boy told the police that after the shootings, a man took him on his shoulders and carried him to the house a mile away while singing to him to help keep him calm.
Depends on what the song is, man. You know, you could sing a pretty creepy song.
It'd be like Phantom of the Opera right over there.
Yeah. Or Hope Floats, the song from there.
I still don't know what that is.
That would give you nightmares, according to you.
I blocked out the whole thing, Gibbs. I don't even want to hear about it.
All right.
Now, what happened was, according to the boy, the doorbell to this man's home was too high for him to reach. So the man that had carried him to the house actually rang it, and then he ran off.
So, kind of a sweet guy after all. Like, hey, I killed your mom and your uncle, or whatever he was, but I did carry you on my back, got you safely to the house, dropped you off. Have a good life, kid. I'm out. So, bad guy, good guy?
Or bad guy that has a soft spot for kids, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, thank goodness.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could have easily, very easily, murdered this child as well. Thankfully, he didn't. Now, the investigators looked at this as a pretty simple case to solve. You know, they learned pretty quickly that Barbara's husband was a man named Stefano Mele. He was an older man, and he was mentally challenged. But that's not all they found out. Police found out that Antonia was not Barbara's only lover. She had, in fact, dated 3 brothers, Giovanni, Salvatore, and Francesco Vinci. These were small-time criminals, Gibbs, and she spent time with each of the brothers at different points in time, but she actually had Salvatore living with her and her husband at one point.
Makes the holidays more exciting.
That would be strange.
It would be strange.
At a holiday dinner, when you've dated all 3 of the brothers at one point.
Yeah.
And I really feel bad for the last brother.
Yeah, because, you know, as brother, you'd be like, hey.
Been there, done that.
Yes, exactly.
So you got to feel bad for that one. So I said investigators thought, you know, this was a simple case to solve. They were zeroed in on Barbara's husband, who they assumed was, you know, jealous of what she was doing, and they convicted him of the crime.
Yeah, I mean, they would even do a paraffin glove test on him that would show that he shot some type of gun in recent days. Wouldn't show that he shot that gun that killed them, but it would show that he did shoot a gun, and that was pretty hard evidence to get away from.
Why is that hard? I shoot guns all the time.
Well,
It doesn't mean I've ever shot a person.
when they have motive, now they can say, well,
That's true.
we got some residue of a gun on your hand.
So it's evidence. I don't know how good that evidence is, but back then maybe it was.
Yeah, and it did, because he was mentally challenged. At one point, he does confess to it, but then he recants, and then he comes back and he goes back and forth. And that certainly doesn't help his case.
Well, no, the minute you confess, that's not good. But in his confession, he said that he dropped the gun at the crime scene, but they never found a gun at the crime scene. So that's contradicting what he said.
Well, and you're right. And then at one point, he confesses again. This time he brings in the brothers that she had affairs with, saying that they helped him, and I'm sure that sparks a little bit of interest when you have well-known criminal people, now tied to the murder. But then he flips again and says, no, I never did anything. I was homesick in bed.
And that's the problem. If that's your only alibi, that you're home alone, sick in bed, it's not great.
Well, especially if the one person that would have been there, or the two people, really, your 6-year-old son and your wife who is now dead, and the kid was with her, who's going to back that up? You don't have anybody.
No, and to make matters worse, his son, Natalino, first said that, yeah, it was his dad that was there, and so were the brothers. But again, this kid was 6 years old. He at one point recanted his story and said, no, they weren't there. He had not seen his father all day. But he also changed his story about the man carrying him on his shoulders and singing a song to him to a story where he walked in the pitch dark barefoot through the woods.
So I'm just picturing a horrific crime, probably a little scared. I would think you'd be scared.
As a 6-year-old, you'd be scared to death.
Yeah. It's pitch black out. You're barefoot. Are you really going to walk a mile through the woods? I don't know. It's a long walk. That's why I kind of think maybe this guy did carry him.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it doesn't look good for Stefano, right? All of his story changes back and forth. His son's stories are changing back and forth. He ultimately received 14 years in jail. And that was a pretty light sentence, but it was light due to the fact that he was mentally challenged. Now, jump ahead 6 years. It's September 14, 1974. Again, around midnight, Stefania Pettini, 18 years old, and Pasquale Gentlecore, 19, they're parked on a secluded spot in the countryside in the town of Borgo San Lorenzo. And again, this is just outside of Florence. Stefania and Pasquale had been going to this private spot for about a year. They were found the next morning with Pasquale leaning on the driver's side car door and Stefania outside of the car in the grass right behind the vehicle. Both had been shot with a .22. Stefania was found nude with 90 stab wounds. Now, when you say 90 stab wounds, Gibbs, that sounds like a horrific crime scene.
Brutal, it sounds like.
But these were described as more of surface wounds, almost as if somebody was trying to torture her by just breaking the skin.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Not knowing when.
Or if.
The next one's the fatal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a form of torture, and it would be brutal. And we foreshadowed this in the beginning, right? By talking about the fact that, this killer, in most instances, did not sexually assault the females. But Stefania was sexually assaulted by an olive branch. And you can look at this a couple different ways. There are people that say this might mean that the suspect was impotent or, had some type of sexual issue and decided to pick up a nearby olive branch and use that. Police stated that there was no money missing. Both the man's wallet and the female's purse were intact. But the killer did take some of Stefania's jewelry. But they theorized that the jewelry was taken as a souvenir. And it was after this double murder that the Monster of Florence would take his longest break. Because it would be almost 7 years later, on June 6, 1981, around midnight. And notice, he strikes around midnight. That's a common theme. That 21-year-old Carmela DiNuccio and 30-year-old Giovanni Faggi were just outside Florence in an area known as Scandici at their favorite nightclub hangout called the Anastasia Club. They left the club and pulled over on a dirt road and parked at one of their favorite spots.
That's what you do. You're at the club, having a good time. Time to go home, but back at home, maybe you're not going to have that
privacy.
Yes, no privacy. So you pull over, find a little spot, and want to sit there and talk, love on each other.
What happens in Scandici stays in Scandici?
Always.
But it wouldn't turn out well for them. The next morning, their bodies were found. They had been shot with a .22 and stabbed. Giovanni was found half-dressed, slumped over in the driver's seat of the car. Carmela was found about 15 to 20 feet away from the car. Her jeans had been pulled down. And what was even more disturbing was that the killer had cut out her vaginal area and took it with him.
Yeah, that's bizarre, man.
It's gruesome for sure.
I don't even know how you cut that out, and then I don't know how you pack it up to take it with you.
You don't want. It's not something I want to know how to do. All of the contents of Carmela's purse was dumped out, scattered around the car, but yet her purse was found closed and snapped.
There was like a nice guy. He's like, "Hey, let me shake everything out of your purse. See if you got anything I want in here, or make it look like somebody went through your purse, but let me close it back up and snap it back and lay it down gently." It's kind of weird. Why not just throw the purse down after you shake it out? Seems like a lot of effort.
No, I think it's very strange. Whether he took anything out of the purse or not, I see dumping it out to figure out what the contents are. But why take the time to snap it closed?
Yeah, it just seems like...
You've murdered 2 people.
Maybe he's got OCD and he had to make sure it was closed and snapped. I don't know.
Giovanni's wallet was found and it was determined that nothing was missing. But police would eventually tie this murder with the incident that happened 7 years prior. They ran ballistic tests and quickly determined that the same .22 was used in both sets of murders. The bullet came from a Beretta .22 long rifle, and the bullets were the same Winchester bullets with the same shell casing marks.
So why is everybody going out to these dirt roads, these lover lane areas? Well, that's because in Italy, the cost of living is kind of high, and a lot of couples, until they get married, stay at home. And, if you're in a house with your brothers, girlfriends, fiancés, sisters, whoever, you're not going to have a lot of places to have private time.
Your other 2 brothers that have dated the same woman that
yeah,
you dated.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. They're like, I know you're going to go off to that same spot. She always liked it when I took her there. But yeah, so, they're going to find these little spots to go to so they can have some intimate time together without the everybody from the family hanging out by the door, waiting for you to come out. So during this time, there's a lot of lover lane activity going on, and in and around the Florence area, because it only takes. You only have to do maybe a 10-mile drive outside of Florence, and you're out in some wooded areas and some very rural fields, so you can find some areas where you can be kind of secluded and have time to yourself But because everybody kind of did it, then that brings out people that were known as peeping toms, brings out your voyeurs. You got people probably hanging out in the woods in certain known spots with the night vision.
Waiting for a car to
pull in to get their thrill, sitting there with binoculars, whatever. Well, heck, probably some of them could have enough money to have some type of recording devices. But, people are doing some freaky stuff. People are watching, and as bizarre and as wrong as that sounds, it might also show to be a benefit down the road.
And it is going to turn out to be a big benefit. You're right about that. The police have 2 unsolved double murders. So they start reaching out to the only people that might have seen some suspicious activity in these Lover Lane type areas. And that's peeping toms and voyeurs. They start reaching out to these known individuals to see if they can recall anything or if they have pictures of any of what happened. And as police were talking to these individuals, they led them to a husband and father named Enzo Spalletti. He frequented these areas to peep on couples in lovers' lanes. And apparently he told another peeping Tom that one night he had seen 2 dead bodies. But when police questioned him about it, he wouldn't talk. And so they arrested him for not coming forward with information about that night and why he was there. They had a witness that confirmed he saw Enzo's car parked near the crime scene the night of the murder. Enzo denied even being there, but police definitely thought he was a suspect in the murders, especially since witnesses, relayed that he had talked about seeing dead bodies. A few months went by, and on October 22nd, 1981, 24-year-old Susanna Camby and 26-year-old Stefano Baldi drove to the rural town of Calanzano, which is just outside of Florence. Around 10 p.m., the couple found a spot in Calanzano, and it was kind of on impulse, Gibbs. They had not been there before, but they were looking for some private time away from their families. Their bodies were found the next morning. They had both been shot with a .22. Stefano was found outside the car wearing only his shirt and underwear. The killer carried Susanna over to Stefano and laid her down next to him. But again, as in previous incidents, the killer cut out Susanna's vagina. Her purse had been dumped out and scattered, but nothing was taken. Nothing was stolen. The one thing that was different about this double murder was that it occurred during the week.
Yeah, it happened on a Thursday night instead of a Saturday like the other ones.
And also there was moonlight, where in the other incidents there had been very little moonlight. So some felt that the killer had gone off his typical routine because he wanted to let police know they had the wrong guy, Enzo Spalletti, in custody.
Yeah, so was he trying to be helpful? Was he more like, hey, I'm the bad guy here, focus on me, kind of ego?
I was going to say, I
driven.
seriously doubt that he was being helpful. I would lean more towards ego.
Yeah.
Hey, he didn't do this. I did this.
Yeah. To the point, let me show you why he's in there with you. I just did it. Now you know. Now, I will say the one thing that he didn't take into account, maybe he did, but it was fall in the area where the crime scene was at. There was some mud, and he stepped in that, which left his footprint behind. And because of that, they determined that he was a European size 44, which is like a U.S. size 10 shoe size. So based off that, they would state that the man was at least 5'10". I don't know how, that could potentially help him. It could be somebody a little bit taller. I mean, somebody could have a size 10 shoe size and be shorter than 5'10" as well. So I don't know what type of science is behind that, but that's what they were going with. But the good news is for Enzo, because this crime happened while he was locked up, that they release him. They know he's not the Monster of Florence.
About 8 months later, on June 19th, 1982, 19-year-old Antonella Migliorini and 22-year-old Paolo Minardi decided to go parking, but they chose to park off a main street near some bushes in the villa of Bacchiano, just south of Florence.
So I have to say that your Italian is very good, Michael. Very good, Michael.
I don't know if I'm even close.
I was thinking about jumping in so many times, but no need to, because it's, as me and my foodie friends in Florence would say, excellento.
Later on, friends would say that they drove by and they could see the pair inside the car making out. Police speculated that the couple chose this spot because of their fear of the Monster of Florence. So they didn't want to venture out to one of the rural spots. But it didn't work for them.
No, how disappointed would you be? I mean, it's not funny, but I'm thinking...
Well, you wouldn't be disappointed because you're
no
longer alive.
Yeah, but you'd be like, I got this, baby, you know? Because, she's like, no, we ain't going. I'm not going to take the chance. Let's just go home with mama and watch some TV. And he's like, no, I got this, baby. I got you. Don't worry. I'm just going to take you down the road. I know this little spot underneath this tree. Some cars are going to be going by, but don't worry. It's safe. He's really selling it. And then he gets there, and then what happens. It's terrible.
It is. The next morning, they're discovered murdered. Both were shot to death with the .22. Now, police determined that Paolo tried to get away from the killer because he started the car. But the car was nosed into this spot, so he would have needed to back out while being shot at.
So that makes it rough. You're in the driver's seat. You see this guy coming, this person coming at you out of the bushes with a gun, and he's shooting at you, and you got to get your car started quickly, throw it in reverse, and try to get out of there. And this is what he does.
And apparently, Gibbs, it was one of the shots fired at him while he was trying to escape the scene that killed him. So apparently he did put the car in reverse. He did start to move backwards, but was shot and killed. The car continued across the street and got stuck in a ditch.
So the killer walked across the street. He shot the lights out so no one would see the car. However, a car does stop just slightly up the road. And of course, this forces the Monster of Florence to take off. And it keeps him from doing his typical ritual with the female. And I'm sure this upsets him. That seems like why he does what he does, but not that night.
And I would agree with you, Gibbs. It does seem as though the reason for the murders is so that he can perform this sexual mutilation. I call it sexual because I think that's, I think he's deriving gratification from that act, sexual gratification. So you mentioned this car, these people that passed by. They originally thought it was a car accident.
But thankfully, they called the police, the ambulance comes.
When emergency crews arrived, they discovered that Paolo was still breathing, barely alive, and he was taken to the hospital. But he died shortly after arriving. And it was at the hospital that investigators and the prosecutor hatched a plan. Because as sad as the murders were, they knew they had a chance to help solve these cases. So what they came up with was to tell the press that before he died, Paolo was able to get a few words out, identifying the killer. So the press ran with the story, but nothing ever came out of it. What did happen was someone sent the local news an envelope that contained a newspaper article clipping that was dated from the summer of 1968. The article was about two lovers that were murdered in Lastra Signa by Stefano Mele. In handwriting on the clipping, it said, "Why don't you take another look at this case?" And this is exactly what police did. In re-examining that case, they learned that the same gun was used, the same bullets were used, and they were able to determine all of the bullets from that first case, the first murders, to the most recent murders, all came out of the same box of ammo. That's huge, Gibbs.
It is.
In an investigation, to be able to tie the murders together in that way. And don't forget, we talked about this earlier on. That ammo was discontinued in 1968. The most recent murder we just talked about happened in 1982. So that tells me that the killer is using ammo out of this box for one thing.
Yeah.
These murders.
Yeah, because what would a box contain? 50?
50. If it's 22 long rifle, there's a lot in there. You can get 50, 100.
So you could have more than 100. You
can get a box of 500.
Oh, you can.
Or yeah.
Yeah. So anywhere
you can get a bucket. It does say box. You can get a bucket of many more, like a huge bucket, but
typically if you go into,
I would say 50 or 100
50 or
probably.
100. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good that they tie this one in. The bad part is the husband was convicted and got 14 years, and we're in 1983 now, or 1982. So they figured out 14 years later, and yet Stefano got 14 years in prison. So, wherever he was at that time that they figured out didn't help him a bit.
No, he was either already out or about ready to get out.
Yeah.
So either way, he either did his whole time or did almost all of it, most likely.
Yeah. It's too bad.
The police went back, reread the statements from 1968, and they kept coming back to the Vinci brothers. So they began to look harder into them. They knew that the brothers had a criminal past, and they focused in on Francesco and the oldest brother, Salvatore. And during this investigation, police learned that Francesco drove his car and hid it in the woods in southern Tuscany. And they were very suspicious of this.
Yeah, I mean, why try to hide your car? I mean, that's very strange.
Well, and I think they're putting it together with the news article of Paolo identifying his killer.
Oh, yeah.
And thinking Francesco freaked out and thought that he needed to hide. Now, why he needed to hide his car, I never got that part, Gibbs, because to my knowledge, there was never mention of a car seen at any of the crime scenes. It's almost as if the Monster of Florence emerged from the bushes in almost every
instance.
Yeah. But this is what investigators globbed onto.
Well, it's enough to pique their interest for sure.
Well, it piqued more than their interest because they took Francesco into custody on suspicion that he was the Monster of Florence. And they started questioning him. So we fast forward to September 9th, 1983. It's about 15 months since the last murder. 24-year-old Huey Rush and 24-year-old Horst Meyer are in the neighborhood of Galuso inside Florence. These are two German tourists, and they're hanging out inside their VW camper van.
Imagine that. Two Germans.
In a VW van.
What's the odds?
Now, these were both men.
Yeah, but from a distance, one of the men could easily look female because of his slight build and his long blonde hair. Kind of like you don't have long blonde hair.
I do not.
You don't have long hair, period.
And I don't have a slight build, that's for sure.
Well, you're working on it.
I'm working on it. So these two men are hanging out in the van when shots are fired through the driver's side window. Then the killer walked around and fired through the passenger window. These shots killed both men. The killer then went inside the van, but when he did, he realized that these were two men.
So then police would theorize that he got really upset because he was hoping that it was a female so he can do his ritual thing. And of course, this night he didn't get to because, like you said, it was two men in the van.
The police were able to determine at the crime scene that the killer, who they believed to be the Monster of Florence, had to be at least 5'10" based on the height of the van and its windows. But remember, they still have Francesco in custody, and he's been there for over a year. So once this murder occurred, they knew it wasn't him, and they let him go. And it's so strange, Gibbs. It just keeps happening over and over. They pick a suspect.
Yeah.
They put him in custody, and then another murder happens, which essentially clears that person.
Right.
Now, you could say that it's just the killer picking his time to kill, but you could also look at it, as I think some in the police did, as the killer wanting to prove that the person they had wasn't the killer. He wanted the credit.
Yeah, I think ego steps in
for
and says,
what he was doing.
yeah, this is me. This is my job. Don't you be putting this on somebody else.
So they released Francesco, but they bring in his brother Salvatore, the oldest of the brothers. He's the leader of the group, and they arrest him for more questioning. And police brought in Giovanni Mele, Stefano's brother, and Piero Mucciarini, Stefano Mele's brother-in-law, for questioning. On July 29th, 1984, about 9 months later, 18-year-old Pia Rontini and 21-year-old Claudio Stefanacci were parked at their normal spot in the woods near Viccio, outside of Florence. They were shot and stabbed sometime between 9:30, 10 p.m. that night. Pia was dragged away, and her body was mutilated, and her vagina was removed. In addition, her left breast was cut off. But this time, the Monster of Florence left a handprint on top of the couple's car. Police determined that he held his gun in his right hand, so now they're thinking, Gibbs, he's right-handed. Also, they found knee prints on the car where he leaned against it. And using this, they somehow confirmed his height as 6 feet tall. So we've gone from 5'10". Now he's grown a little. He's up to 6 foot tall.
2 inches.
It's very good math.
I'm pretty good at math.
You are. English, not so much.
You know, that's because I.
But it is your second language.
It is my second language, yes.
I have to give you a break on that.
It's.
But because of the timing of these murders, they once again have to release the suspect they have in custody, Salvatore, because clearly he didn't have anything to do with the murders. Now we jump 14 months to September 8th, 1985. A French couple, 36-year-old Nadine Morio and 25-year-old Jean-Michel Cravachvili, decided to camp just outside of Florence in a town called San Cassiano. They camped just off the main road behind some trees and bushes.
Everybody always likes to go by the bushes and trees.
You got to have some cover.
You got to have some cover, but along with cover comes danger.
That is true. Pros and cons. Jean was shot first with a .22 while inside the tent. But apparently, Gibbs, this guy was an athlete. He was strong. So even though he was shot, he took off outside the tent.
Yeah, he was shot in the arm. He jumps out of the tent, starts running. Now he can either run just out to the street, which wasn't too far away, but he chose, probably in panic, and he ran more into the woods, which I would think you would want to do the opposite, but whatever reason, he chose to run into the woods. And the killer pursued him and would eventually catch up to him and finished him off with his knife. So, of course, then the killer returns back to the tent, and he finished his normal process, and he cut out her vagina and then disappeared.
The day after these murders occurred, another envelope was sent to the main prosecutor, Silvia Della Monica. The outside of the envelope looked like a ransom note with the address spelled out with letters from magazines. The envelope had one misspelled word, which was Republica. And this had the police wondering if the monster was playing around with them or if he just was not very educated. Because I guess, Gibbs, this is a very common word in Italy.
Well, yes, it's a very common for people to use that, yes.
Well, it has an A on the end of it, so you're right. You're right at home. Once the envelope was opened, they didn't find what they were expecting to find. There was no letter. There was no message inside the envelope. What was in there was a tiny sliver of Nadine Mario's breast. So the monster kept her breast as a trophy, but sent a piece of it to the prosecutor.
That's bold. That's a statement.
This is somebody that, number one, enjoys what they're doing.
Yeah.
Number two, they also enjoy, I think, playing around with the authorities.
Yeah, because I almost think that he does these killings, these recent ones, just to let the police know they don't have the right person in custody.
Seems that way.
Seems that way, yeah. And it is kind of bizarre. I mean, we hear, the last few were foreigners, which kind of makes sense, right? Because if you are from Florence, you're probably like, you know what? We're going to stay away from the woods and the fields for a while till they catch this guy.
Because it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, but if you're not from the area and you're in for a romantic weekend or whatever, like the Germans, well, they weren't there for romantic reasons, but they were there to camp out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
Yeah, and then you have the French couple that come in. They're not aware how severe this probably is. Maybe they hear something, maybe they see some of the signs about it.
But they're not scared to death like the residents of Florence.
Exactly.
I get what you're saying. So the other thing, as we're wrapping this episode up, Gibbs, is I can't help but think there are a lot of similarities in this Monster of Florence case to, the case we had in California of the Zodiac. I mean, obviously you have the attacks occurring in Lover's Lane. Very, that matches. You have a perpetrator that is attacking couples.
Yeah.
For the most part, or who he thinks are couples. The main difference to me is the mutilation. That's a big difference. And obviously I'm not saying that the Zodiac went over to Florence, Italy and started something new. I'm just saying,
ooh, there you go.
Maybe. But the similarities are striking, emerging all of a sudden onto these couples and, shooting them while they're in the car and sometimes taking them out of the car.
If you get the timelines to match up, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe we've really hit on something.
Maybe. Here. And then, it also reminds me a little bit of the Texarkana one that we did.
A little bit. But, a lot of people think that could be the Zodiac and they are one and the same.
Yeah.
All right. So like we mentioned, this is a two-parter. We've got a lot left to cover in this, what is a really big case.
Yeah. Yeah. Some more to come.
All right, Gibbs, we've got voicemails.
Let's hear them.
All right, let's do it.
Hey guys, it's Noni Zanesco from Griffith, New South Wales, Australia. I love your work. Obsessed. I have a new / old unsolved murder mystery in our town Griffith, a renowned mafia hotspot. Donald McCain was killed due to standing up to the drug mafia epidemic. He's never been found. Lots of rumours here. Even a statue in town. He was killed in 1977. To this day, he's never been found. His remains, anyway. The mafia is still alive and strong here in Griffith. It's a hot spot. Anyway, just a thought. Love your work. Keep it up. Noni.
All right, great voicemail. We love our Australian listeners.
Boy, we do. Razor blades?
You just said razor blades.
Is that what way I was supposed to?
No, it's Rise Up Lights.
Oh.
You literally just said the words razor blades
instead of Rise Up Lights. Rise Up Lights.
Oh, that cracked me up.
I try.
Mike and Gibby, it's the Jerry, the trucker driver. I thought I called in and to check in with you. Sorry, guys, I had to. Anyways, leaving your lovely state of Ohio here, traveling down I-75 south, about 30 miles north of Cincy. Thought I'd call and check in. It's been a while. Just got done listening to Gary Allen Walker case. Once again, good job, guys. You still make me laugh every episode, so yeah, keep it up. I need that. Let's see, what else was I going to say here? Max Headroom. Yeah, Gibby, we knew exactly what you were talking about right off the bat. Like Mike, you said there, we're starting to learn you too. And I got to agree with Mike. I think you're letting out a little too much information there, buddy. Okay, so you might cut back a little bit. Talking about Law-Abiding Citizen, that's another great movie. I love it. That's what that character does. Yeah, if somebody was to ever hurt a family member, I'm just going to say I've got to be quiet now because anything I say further will be considered premeditated. So, anyways, guys, keep doing what you're doing. We all love it. The ones that don't, screw them. They don't matter anyways. So, keep your own time ticking, guys. We'll talk to you later.
It's our favorite trucker, Jerry.
Was he making fun of my Italian auto?
Actually, I think his was better.
Oh, you really is going to think that?
He just added an A to everything at the end, and it sounded just like you.
That's you're to me over here.
So it's funny. He said he was about 30 miles north of Cincy. He literally probably was right by my house.
Yeah, he was right there, man.
About 5 miles from my house, I bet.
Could have had lunch with him.
Could have.
Coffee.
He didn't call me ahead of time.
No.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Ariel from Utah. I have a suggestion, and I would absolutely love if you did it. The Susan Powell case, I'm sure you've heard about it. She was murdered. Well, it's technically unsolved, but rumor is that she was murdered by her husband, Josh Powell, and they were searching for her body not far from where I grew up. And it is a really, really interesting case. I would really love if you could do it sometime. So that's my suggestion. Thanks for all that you guys do. I absolutely love your podcast. Keep your own time ticking. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Love that voicemail. We will definitely look into that one.
Ariel, the mermaid. She probably only heard that 50 million
50
times.
million times.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Patrick. I'm calling out of Northern California here. Hey, listen, a couple things real quick. Probably a long voicemail, never calling in anywhere, so I'm not used to that, but love your guys' podcast. I'm a heavy equipment operator. I sit in my excavator all day long with my Bluetooth on. It really makes the day go by. I love the empathy you guys have for the victims and the victims' family and how you keep this crazy, nasty shit light enough where we can listen to it. Another thing is as we all know, the East Area rapist was just caught not too long ago this year with that genealogy link. Well, Anne-Marie Schubert is on fire. She's one hell of a woman. They just announced yesterday that using the same technique, they just caught somebody called the North Rapist. I thought that might be a little interesting for you guys to check out and maybe cover. This dude, I believe it was from 1991 to 2006. It was like 10 or 11 visits to Northern California. And get this piece of shit worked at the University of Berkeley as a safety officer. So, as you guys stated, you think a lot more is going to be coming out of this thing. She's one of a role right now. But hey, you guys keep up the good work, and hopefully I'll see you guys at a crime con or something one day. Take it easy.
Awesome. Thank you for the voicemail. Now, what I want to say about that, Gibbs, he talks about, kind of the forensic genealogy, breaking open some of these unsolved cases. I didn't mention it up front, but, Morph and I have the podcast Criminology. We just started season 4, and it's all about this. We are profiling a number of cases in this season from just this year that have been solved using GEDmatch, Parabond, forensic genealogy, all the same types of things.
It's amazing. I was looking, he's talking about I'm assuming he's talking about the North Cal rapist.
Mm-hmm. North Cal.
Yeah. And then, while looking that up, there's one that just came out not too long ago as well, the Ramsey Street rapist, that, again, DNA. I mean, it's amazing that they're finally closing some of these loops, and putting the end to some of these stories.
I've said it before. If you were a serial rapist, or maybe even just a one-off rapist, that thought you got away with something 20, 30, 40 years ago, you better think again, because somebody's going to be knocking on your door, and it's going to be, a SWAT team, a whole shipload of police officers.
Yeah.
And they're going to take you down.
They're going to find you.
All right, Gibbs, that is it for this first part on the Monster of Florence. We'll be back next week with part 2, and we'll talk to you then.
All right.
So it's another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.